the shores of old Lake Erie stands our alma mater true. Fredonia state we proudly honor, with its colors white and blue.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to our latest edition of Reflections of Fredonia. My name is Jack Croxton. I am a former faculty member at SUNY Fredonia who retired a year or two ago and thought it might be fun to actually develop a podcast where we could interview alumni from Fredonia and give them an opportunity to share information about their careers and reflect back on some of the experiences that they had while they were a student at Fredonia. So we are recording our interview from right here in Fredonia at the Fredonia Radio Systems, Fredonia's student-run radio station.
Hi, everybody. My name is Chloe Kowalik. I graduated from Fredonia in May 2024, and I am currently back at Fredonia for grad school, and I am pursuing my Master's of Science in Clinical Mental Health Counseling.
For today's podcast, we have a very special guest. So why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself by telling us your name and when you graduated from Fredonia.
Hi, everybody. My name is Tony Ambrose, and I'm from the class of 2008.
Tony, what did you study while you were a student here at Fredonia?
So at Fredonia, I graduated with my degree in social studies, adolescent education, double majoring in history, as many do. I started off, originally I joined Fredonia my freshman year. I was a TV digital film major, and then I made the switch over for sophomore, junior, and senior year.
So what made you decide you wanted to go into education?
I don't know, freshman year, just like experiencing those initial communications classes, I felt I could just tell that I was maybe out of place, and it wasn't it just wasn't like meshing with the way that my mind worked, I think. And I could just it had always sort of been in the back of my head from maybe middle school on that I'm like experiencing these classes as a student, and I kind of was always thinking about what am I, like if it had turned, like what would I do as a teacher, envisioning myself as a teacher, uh, sort of analyzing what my high school teachers were doing and thinking about that, sort of from 50 feet overhead. And so I don't know, I at the end of freshman year, it just kind of felt like it was the right move to make. And it was one of those things that like, I kind of always knew it in my heart. It was just a matter of me accepting it and going for it and realizing that the career path that I wanted to go on and the life that I wanted to lead, the adulthood, the way I wanted my adulthood to look, maybe meshed a lot better uh, with education and the way that that was structured than with communications or with anything that was like bouncing around jobs or being in an office or anything that would come with a job in that field.
Well, it certainly sounds like you made a good decision.
I do not regret it, that's for sure.
So we've kind of, through our interviews, we found that so many people are coming from so many different background stories on how they even found out about Fredonia. So how did Fredonia really get on your radar, and what made you want to come here?
So I grew up in Lancaster, New York, outside of Buffalo. And so Fredonia had always been like known to me, as one of the closer SUNY schools. A lot of people from my town went to Fredonia. So it was never something that I had really even thought about until or had analyzed in any way in my mind as a 17-year-old until my at the time what I thought was going to be my chosen career path of something in communications and something in like video editing. I just kind of like it just in sort of researching like who had the programs and casting a wide net and applying to them. Then it and I had never really like I don't think I had really been to Fredonia. Maybe I had been through Fredonia as a child a few times on our way down to my family like used to go to like cottages on Chautauqua Lake a lot when I was growing up. So we had been down there near Jamestown a bunch. And when it came down to it, and it came down to sort of the college search and me making the decisions, I didn't really find myself to be I didn't really find myself liking a lot of the schools that were far away or that were really far away, but I knew I wanted to go away, at least, out of the general area where my parents lived and where my hometown was. And I had no intention on commuting. I knew that. And
Mm.
but going really far away, like all of those cities, like, I remember visiting Hofstra on Long Island, and it was something I was really psyched up about. And then getting there kind of fell flat for me. And then I went to Fredonia on a visit, and it was like April 12th, and April 15th was the due date that I knew I had to like have my college decision in by. And I don't know if that was a due date I set for myself or if that was on some form somewhere that I needed to know at that point. But as soon as I was on campus and I see the sun glistening off the trees outside Fenton, and I could just tell there was a vibe of like, well, this is where I'm going to go.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't admit it to myself because I wanted to be more thoughtful about it than just like knowing and just saying it. But I could tell in that moment, I knew that this is where I was going to go, because I could tell that Fredonia had Fredonia had an ability that I realized when I was on the tour to make what was seeming like a large scale bureaucratic organization with a lot of moving pieces, with a lot of stakeholders, with a lot of like people on staff, to make something that could have been so sterile. And I bet you at a lot of other colleges is a lot more sterile than Fredonia, but it made it completely human. And you could tell in the way that, people were stopping our tour guide and saying hello and having brief conversations, and the way that presentations were being made to us. There was just something very, very human about it that spoke to me greatly. And you could tell that it just kind of felt like everything, all my needs were satisfied, and that it was going to be the right place for me, just in the tone and in the vibe. Um, and it seemed like everyone knew people, and it seemed like everyone was interconnected in some way, and that everyone, whether it be student or faculty alike, had so many connections and like had a big web within the faculty and within the students. And I think that remained true, and I realized just how true that was as I had my experience there as a student, and then even afterwards, having my experience as an alumni and going and seeing, the same members of faculty that were meaningful to me at homecomings, or at like when the alumni house will do like inner city visits. Like they'll have like an event in Rochester, which is where I live now, to do it. Like it's very clear that it's very human in it. And Fredonia really makes you feel like um, Fredonia really makes you feel like you're more than just a number, or you're more than just a form or a name on a list.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
Well, let's talk a little bit about your experiences while you were an undergraduate here. Do you have any particular favorite memory or favorite professor while you were attending Fredonia?
Ooh, favorite professor. I do. It's interesting because I often think when I'm doing alumni stuff, because I would say I participate a good amount in things, in alumni events, and going to homecoming and doing this podcast and talking to you guys. I do and have run into people that were, like that were meaningful, that were on staff. Like if I think about, I was an RA in Grissom for 2 years. And so like I worked a lot with Dan Goodwin. I don't know if he was around for you, Chloe, because he retired probably a couple of years ago.
Yeah,
Is
he
he
was
someone you know?
there. He was there. Like, he wasn't. My friends lived in the townhouses, but it was just before I lived in the townhouses.
Oh, okay, right, because he then RD'd in the townhouses.
Yep.
Yeah, so like he was someone I was like super close with, and worked a lot with. And I know he also did a lot of the leadership development stuff that I also did. And then he's someone who comes in, who like has made appearances at these alumni events, that I'm talking about. And for him to even still like remember me and join our conversation circles and know things. So like that's big. And then same thing with, obviously, with Patty Feraldi, is someone I worked with a
Mm-hmm.
lot at the as an undergraduate alumni council and a college ambassador. And she was, she also recently retired as from her position working with alumni. And she was someone who was like incredible at her job. For her to be, I was always impressed that even 15 or 20 years later, I could run into her and she could instantly drop the same um the same like inside jokes that we had when I was in college. And just like instantly without knowing me, it's like how many kids have gone through that you've worked with between me and between me in '04 to '08 and today, and you still just like instantly have it and know that. And that's, that speaks to your previous question about how that makes Fredonia special. But I do think when I'm in those situations, I'm like reflecting on the adults that I do sometimes run into. I so rarely run into professors that I had. So if I think about like those cornerstone professors, like Mary Beth Stevens in the history department, like she was someone I took a ton of classes with, and was always so supportive because she knew firsthand many of our career paths as we're taking so many history classes and we're being historians at an undergraduate level, but we're aspiring teachers, and she was a high school history teacher, so there was definitely that aspect of like she always understood the positions that we were in, and our experience, and between that and just like talking sports and baseball with her. So she was someone that springs to mind when it comes to favorite professors.
Right. Well, Mary Beth's certainly been an asset to the college. She's been very busy in administration as chair of the
oh, really?
department and on the faculty
Oh,
senate. So she's done a lot of stuff outside of the classroom too.
oh, right. I think I did hear that she was, yeah, that she had grown to be department head. So that's
Mhm.
awesome, and that's awesome that you have that connection. Yeah, she was definitely someone who was just a consummate professional, like really knew her stuff, really knew just how to be a professor. And there's so many classes you go through between undergrad and grad school, and it's like, sometimes people are maybe not as experienced, and you can tell, or they're kind of finding their way, or they're a professor who's just less student centered, or not so easy to work with. But Dr. Stevens was none of that. Dr. Stevens had it all. Was clearly like a veteran, had it figured out as far as being a professor goes.
How about any extracurricular activities while you were here?
Ooh, okay. Extracurricular wise, so I had mentioned that I was an RA in Grissom for 2 years. So I lived in Grissom for 3 years, once as a freshman, and then I stayed on staff sophomore and junior year, and then I moved off campus after that. But I had always kind of had like odd jobs that sort of worked that I sort of like had connections because I was an RA in the work that I was doing through Res Life. So the odd jobs I kind of think of partially as an activity. Between RAing, night desk, I worked at that. I forgot what it's called, but it's like it's not the main fitness center in Dodds, but it's like the Res Life Fitness Center
Is it in
in the
Schultz?
yeah, I was just gonna say it might be in Schultz
Mm-hmm.
or somewhere in the quad.
Yep.
Yeah, so like, yeah, so working in there on that staff. Um, like I said, I was a college ambassador. That was super fun. That was also something that was really awesome, and to what I spoke about, like you're a human being and you're more than a name on a list
Mm-hmm.
at Fredonia, is being college ambassador and just having it be completely normal that I was often at the president's house, and like the president would knew who I was, and like we would have conversations and be able to say hi to each other just because I was at his house frequently enough from being college ambassador.
Hmm.
So that was great. And then I was almost always in intramurals, especially early on. I remember we came in the first year, my freshman year, I think was the first year they had dodgeball intramurals, and that was like an instant um, cultural success when dodgeball intramurals had started up, and the way that we were kind of approaching those games and looking at it, and that was also a great way to make friends and build connections. I remember at orientation, one of the student whatever they are, like students that are helping with orientation, had highly recommended getting in on intramurals, and that's one of the most effective way to build connections and to make friends and to build bonds, and they were 100% correct. Like I got on a couple intramural teams early on. We did dodgeball, we did broomball was big, softball in the spring a little bit, and that was huge. That was huge not only just in making friends and sort of expanding my social circle, but um, building strong bonds with the friends that I had made early on, who were my suite mates, and then their greater circles of their greater friends. And the first few months, you're kind of like waiting for everything to shake out into place
Now,
and figure that
now,
out. Go ahead, Dr.
now,
Croxton.
was your dodgeball team as good as the dodgeball team in the movie?
It was, there were so many of those jokes because that, like, the introduction of dodgeball intramurals at Fredonia coincided with that movie growing in popularity, and one obviously influenced the other. So there were so many references and inside jokes. You could not go to a game without someone saying you got to dip, duck, dodge, whatever those 5 Ds are from the movie. But it definitely had an influence for sure.
Awesome. So we know that you teach high school history in Hilton. So tell us a little bit about what your career trajectory looked like when you graduated.
Oh, I'd love to. Okay, so as always, very Fredonia influenced. Um, the so my senior year when we got student teaching assignments, I was lucky enough to, they often do one sort of close one and one far one, and they're trying to give you a middle school and a high school. My middle school was Dunkirk Middle School, so super convenient, super easy for me to just go from and live, from my house with my housemates to that, which was a real juxtaposition of I'm living like, in a college house to I'm going to this professional setting where your career is pseudo on the line every day and you're also in this learning experience.
Mm-hmm.
And then my high school experience, the latter half of my last semester was at East Aurora High School, a little bit further away, closer to my parents' house. So I sort of stayed sometimes in Fredonia, sometimes at my parents' house. And that was actually the most luck that I've ever had, maybe as careers often are, built on luck. Because I went in there, I taught with, or I student taught under someone who was going to be retiring within the next year, within a couple years. And so then, that was a successful and great experience. And he was also a great mentor teacher. Mike James was his name. And in student teaching East Aurora, they kind of got my name on the radar of some, because there did end up being sort of a surprise opening in August, and I had a position lined up, but as a teacher assistant in another school district. But it was late August. The school year was starting the next week. I was already in training in another district, as I had said, and I got a call from a principal at East Aurora, and he said, "Hey, we have this kind of surprise opening, and for a social studies teacher, and you came highly recommended from when you did your student teaching with Mr. James. And if you'd like to come in for an interview, we would love to figure something out to be able to do that." So I went there, and it was a position at East Aurora Middle School, but the principal had heard about me, or had gotten a recommendation about me from my student teaching experience, and I was hired on there. And originally it was supposed to be sort of, it ended up being a long-term sub position, and it was like, okay, so it's going to be for the year, and that sounded great to be my first year as a full-time teacher. And what was supposed to be 1 year then turned into 4 years, and that was such a Fredonia experience, because when I got there, the early days of me being there, as I'm meeting more and more of the district's administrators, they all kind of said to me, "Oh, and you went to Fredonia." We all went to Fredonia. Like
Mm-hmm.
every administrator there had gone to Fredonia. Not together, but they were all eager to share with me that they had gone to Fredonia, and eager to show me, their Fred magnets on their desks.
That's cool.
And so that obviously made me feel at home, and made me feel like there was an interpersonal piece about it, even though I had already had some familiarity with the district.
Mm-hmm.
Then this was the, this was the 2009 to 2012 range when uh, teaching was districts were losing jobs and cutting jobs, not adding jobs and hiring people. So I was actually really lucky to have been there for 4 years, as I'm seeing others of my colleagues be cut or reduced or lose their jobs or whatever based on the economic situation. And so then there my time had kind of run out after 4 years, and my position had been reduced to nothing. And so then in searching for new jobs, I had a few outlets throughout New York State, and I ultimately decided to come to Rochester to take a job teaching history in high school at the Aquinas Institute, where I had stayed there for about 4.5 years, and and doing a lot of things there that I would say were sort of like the skills built at Fredonia because I had done so much there. Whereas a private school like that values so much, puts so much on like culture and student activities and um, building programs like that. And that was so much of what I had done at Fredonia that building those skills like really informed the sort of work that I was able to do outside of the classroom at Aquinas, but that really sort of made me this really sort of like made me find my niche at that school. Then after 4.5-ish years at AQ, I went to I was hired as a learning specialist for technology, or an instructional specialist for technology at Hilton. And I did that for 4 years, being like a tech integrator. Every district sort of has a different a different term for that position, but many districts have them, and we're starting to have them. And so I took that job. I did that for about 4 years, and then I came to a point where I was it was more and more apparent to me that my position had my position and my heart was really more in the classroom with my own classes, more so than helping teachers and sort of living vicariously through them. But I had missed so many aspects of the classroom that the opportunity came for me to switch over to the classroom as someone was retiring. So I transferred over into that position, and I've been there ever since. So a
Okay.
little of a few different
Yeah,
markets.
for sure. Okay, so I'm going to put you on the spot here. In about 60 seconds, tell us your most rewarding part of teaching and your biggest challenge.
Ooh,
That's a
okay.
hard one.
That is a very hard one. So I think that anything rewarding comes from the amount of effort and heart and work that you put into it. And I think that was true. That's going to be true for anyone who's in college. It's going to be true for anyone in the professional world, or anyone in their personal world. So I think what I find my most rewarding part of teaching is when there's something that I've really put a lot of myself into, and then it goes really great.
Mhm.
Um, and so it's like I think about the opportunities that have come just from being a teacher, like the little things that you just like get to be like, not ever that you get to realize not everyone has this experience. Like if you are um like if you are judging a talent show, or you are making some video for the morning announcements, or um you are auditioning for Teacher Week on Wheel of Fortune. And so this is something. So a couple weeks ago, I was actually a contestant on Wheel of Fortune, and that
Oh, no
happened
way.
because I was a teacher because I had auditioned for Teacher Week.
Oh, that's so cool.
And then it sort of spurt into I'm actually going to get cast for Halloween week, but it wouldn't have happened without teaching, without those unique opportunities.
Hmm.
Uh,
Mhm.
so what was the other half of it?
Challenge.
Rewarding and challenging. I mean, honestly, I think the most challenging part is it takes a lot of energy any given day to be a teacher. And really it's, to know you're putting so much of yourself into it, and to have so much energy, and then to be like, okay, the day's done. And then, in 14 hours, you're going again. And to
Mhm.
to have to deliver with that much energy, I find
Hmm.
that at this point in my life anyway, to be the most challenging part. And to know that every day comes with its own unique set of challenges, and that's not and they're completely unpredictable. What is it
Yeah.
like, if I could ask you, Dr. Croxton, what was the most challenging part of being a professor when they're sort of have graduated from the age that I see them?
Wow, put me on the spot
Yeah.
here, huh?
Yeah, I'll turn the tables.
Yeah, I I certainly would not give up what I was able to do as a college professor, because I've always felt that I would never be a good high school teacher, because I'd have to
Mm,
do more classroom management.
Mm-hmm.
When kids are in college, they're a little bit older, we're there to share learning experiences. But I always felt like at a younger age, so much other stuff is going on in their lives. It'd be hard to get through to them. But I found it particularly gratifying, particularly working one-on-one with students on independent study projects. That's always been most rewarding for me.
oh, interesting. Okay. Is that pseudo what this is? This podcast with Chloe?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, just I just think it's fun to hear what students have been doing, and feel as though, our faculty here at Fredonia have had a positive impact on their lives.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
Yeah.
Cool.
For sure. I mean, that's certainly how I feel about it. And when this podcast opportunity came up, and when it was sent out in the alumni email, and I said that a podcast is looking for guests who are alumni, and I reached out, I was like, well, that just sounds like everything I would want to do. Like
Mm-hmm.
that just sounds fun to have a what I presume will be a delightful conversation talking about Fredonia and talking about college. So
Exactly.
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. So kind of taking it back to you. Super quick, you mentioned that you married a Fredonia alum. Did you guys meet at Fredonia?
No, okay. So no, my wife she's actually not an alum yet. But she did go to Fredonia. So
Okay.
my wife did her freshman year of undergrad at Fredonia, and she is a few years younger than me. She did it um maybe 4 years-ish after I left. So she did her freshman year there. And then she left. She transferred out, and now she is actually a current student at Fredonia in grad school. She's gone back to pursue her master's degree, and is doing it remotely at Fredonia. So I'm like, this is the universe, like the universe is destined. You were destined to be a Fredonia Blue Devil graduate. And I keep pressuring her to be like, we have to go to graduation. And she's like, I don't want to. She does this like, I don't need to go to graduation for this. Like, we don't have to go down there for graduation. I'm like, no, this isn't for you. Like,
Mhm.
we should go down and we should all go down and we should all go to graduation, and have a great time. And then we should go and eat at the John's, and we should go and have like a nice time in there. And she doesn't, and she was on board until recently, and she's like, okay, the way the scheduling is shaking out, it seems like I'm going to be done after this summer. So there's like, it seems a little anticlimactic
Mm-hmm.
to graduation at that, but the pressure's still on. I'm still pressuring her that I want to go down for her graduation and
That's
have her
cool.
walk.
Yeah. So, what advice would you offer current Fredonia students?
I think that I was having this recent conversation with a colleague, and it was about, and she started asking around as like, who remembers automatically on a trigger their undergrad graduation year. And I knew mine instantly. I'm like 2008, of course. Like, what? How is this even a question? And so many people didn't even remember, and they were doing math, and what I kind of found was the difference between how it was automatic for me and why it was something meaningful for me, and those who maybe it wasn't so meaningful for, was that it's very easy, I think, for many to have sort of this sort of transactional approach to college of, yeah, I'm going to earn this degree because I'm going to do what the professor asks, and I'm going to put out this work, and they're going to take it and they're going to grade it, and then I'm going to get that, and then I'm going to get a letter on my transcript, and then they're going to give me a degree, and then that's just like the means, that's just the hoop I have to jump through to
Mm-hmm.
go towards my chosen career. And I never really had that attitude when I was in it. I had the attitude of like, this can be a meaningful um, experience for me. This can be a formative experience. This is where I'm going to make friends and have experiences and have things that shape me happen. And I'm going to learn a ton of things about history and in the classroom. And I'm going to learn a ton of things about life outside of the classroom. And so that's the advice that I would have, is that I think it's very easy to be like, for students today, and I see it sometimes with, my wife or with other college students who are like, oh, I have to do this and I have to like submit to this online forum conversation or whatever, and do all this, and then it doesn't really like mean anything. But my advice to students is, don't make it transactional, but make it something that's meaningful for you, and like build it to be meaningful, and have goggles on that will make it more than just a hoop you have to jump through, but that will make it something that can enter your heart and that you work hard for, and are rewarded intrinsically about.
Well, that is really sound advice.
Yeah.
It's been a pleasure chatting with you today, Tony. Is there anything else you'd like to add?
Dr. Croxton, you have an incredible radio or podcast voice. Your voice was made for this.
Okay,
I feel like I'm
guess
listening to NPR.
Yeah, there you go.
all right. Okay. Well, when I get that job at NPR, I'll mention you.
All right, please do.
Well, that pretty much wraps up our show today. So again, thank you so much for being our guest. And I am Jack Croxton.
And I'm Chloe Kowalik, and we'll see you in the next podcast.
Sing its glory and its praises. Let them ring forever true. Beloved is our alma mater, Fredonia State